35 minutes, but please, at any time, if you have questions, feel free to stop me, or if you have questions at the end, I'll be glad to try and fill those, and if I have an answer for you, I'll give it to you. If not, then I may have to do a little research and investigating and follow back up with you. So, my name is Dr. Mike Skelton. I'm a superintendent here in the Benton School District, and thank you all for being here tonight to hear the presentation about the bond restructuring or debt extension that I'm here to talk to you about tonight. I'll just give you a quick general overview, just give you the nuts and bolts, and then we go through the rest of the presentation. We have some bonds that are due to be paid off in the year 2040, and what we're doing is we're asking for an extension of those bonds for a period of 8 years. So it's not a millage tax increase. Our current millage rate is 41.9 mils. And so all we're doing is saying instead of those bonds being paid off in the year 2040, can we extend that out an 8-year time period, and it generates about $13 million for us. And so here in the presentation, I'm going to show you the projects that we're looking at doing and using that money towards. So, why bond restructure? At the very beginning, as I was hired in the Benton School District and the school year got started, we set out to have some strategic planning sessions, and I was telling Ms. Butler here that her daughter was actually a part of those meetings as well. We had about 60 to 80 community members come in, parents, business leaders and things of that nature, and then we also met with all of our staff throughout the district, our administrators, our teaching staff, even several classified staff. And so during that strategic planning session, there were 5 things that were asked, but 2 of them I want to point out to you tonight, which kind of gives fuel behind why we're looking at this debt extension. One of the questions that I asked of those strategic planning session folks that showed up was, name 1 to 3 things that you consider to be opportunities for our school district. And then I also asked, what do you think are 1 to 3 threats or challenges that we have as a school district? And if you'll notice on this slide, the top 2 answers for those 2 particular questions were the same. And it had to do with growth and the management of that growth, and the belief that if we don't manage what's coming our way, which I'll just tell you, I look at the numbers today, our 3-quarter average from last year to this year, we're up 112, 113 students. That's just this year. So we grew 100+ students this year. And so what happens is we're starting to feel that pressure. We've been feeling that pressure in our schools for a while. And that's the reason why our 5th grade, is being moved up into our middle school this coming year to relieve some of that pressure that's been felt at the elementary level. And so I'll talk a little bit further about that as we go. And then you see a few of the other top answers, but these top 2 answers right here on balance, challenges, and threats and opportunities were the number 1 answer, both of those things by far than the rest of those that you see on the list. So here's some of the questions that I hope to answer for you tonight. So as I go through the presentation, if there's something on here that I don't answer for you, please stop me and ask me, because this is my intent, is to let you know the answers to these questions tonight. So first thing everybody wants to know is, will our taxes increase? The answer to that is no, but it's going to be extended over a period of 8 years, as I mentioned to you before. It's a debt extension. Why do we need a debt extension? Well, let me back up here. What is a debt extension? A debt extension simply means that the current bond debt payments are going to be extended over a longer period of time. I've talked about that. It does not increase taxes. Here you see just a general overview as to what that $13 million would do. One of the first things is the renovation and expansion of cafeteria space. And I'm going to get to a slide here in just a second just to show you exactly what I'm talking about when I say we're out of space. We're out of space, especially at the middle school and the junior high when it comes to our cafeterias. We would relocate the transportation garage, the transportation hub, and these are just estimates, by the way. The figures that you see out here, we figure the cafeteria kitchen renovation would be in the ballpark of around $4 million. Transportation relocation of about $1 million. The next thing on the list would be Cook Field House, along with the VHS band room expansion. And I'll talk about these more in depth as we go. At about $2.5 million. Academic spaces to help with our hub program, the classroom spaces, and I'll give you some numbers of some particular grade levels that are filtering through our school system right now, especially our 4th grade and 5th graders is 2 of our largest classes that we've ever had come through the school system. The next and last one here on the list is junior high additional classrooms, and you'll see why here in just a second, but also academic space at a cost of about $2 million. And then the last thing on the list is the relocation of our baseball field. And one of the things about that is we've got some good community partners that are willing to step up and put some money towards this particular project. So we think that we can get that price tag down less than that, but that's about the ballpark of what it would cost to relocate. And the reason to relocate the field, not necessarily because we feel like we need a new baseball stadium, but we need the green space that the current baseball facility sits on in order to do some of these expansion projects that we're talking about. So how would you get affected by the election? Of course, with these facilities projects, there's some of the things that we would benefit from as a community. It's all about increasing students' opportunities, we feel. Also, attracting, as good a staff into the community as what we can. Economic growth here in the county, not just in Benton, but also Saline County. Higher property values, and then also just the pride that we have here in our community and our school system. What are the potential projects? I'm going to take each of those that I just went over with you more individually. This is the actual high school kitchen in Benton High School that is the only thing that did not get renovated back when we did the renovation project at the high school. So when that high school was originally built, it was originally built to serve a lot fewer students than the 1,150 students that we currently have there now. And so you can imagine trying to get 1,150 meals out of that kitchen right there. It's tough, and it's something that we are looking at addressing. So the facilities currently do not accommodate student enrollment needs, i.e. seating capacity. The kitchen service areas are limited, not efficient, serving lines to process students through the lines quickly. And then the last thing is the outdated kitchen equipment. So to put it in perspective, Benton Middle School, the current cafeteria, as we know it today, the middle school, will only seat 360 students. Our 6th grade students that are there right now is about 412 students, and our 7th grade is at 424 students. Mind you, I just mentioned that what grade level is moving over there next year. It's going to be 5th grade moving over there, which are our current 4th graders, and it's the largest class we have in our school system, about 470 students. So, a cafeteria that seats 360 kids, and we're fixing to put 1,250 kids on that campus. And there's just not enough room for kids to be able to have a seat to sit down and eat their lunch, nor have the time to get through the line to get their tray and sit down and eat, because they only get somewhere in the ballpark of around 30 minutes. And so sometimes when kids are at the end of the line, and by the time they get through there, they may only have just a few minutes to sit down and try and eat. I was told by a parent in one of our strategic planning sessions that her child goes there, and any time that it rains outside and they can't get outside, to help relieve some of those numbers in there, that they had to go in and they basically sit down on the floor inside the cafeteria. And so they're kind of in the way of everybody else trying to get in there and get their tray and eat. Benton Junior High, the cafeteria seats about 340 students. Our current 8th grade is at 395. The current 9th grade is at 380. Now just think about when those 6th and 7th graders and then the upcoming 4th and 5th graders get up through there. Those numbers jump from 395 to, well, you can see the 6th and 7th grade numbers, and this will be 470 eventually because of that large 4th grade that's going to be filtering up that way as well. Benton High School seats 528 students. The first lunch that we run has 550 students on it. The second lunch has 525 students on it. So it's not as much a necessity at the high school, even though there's some growing pains there as well. So cafeteria space. There, the top picture you see is the current middle school cafeteria, and then down below is the actual Benton Junior High cafeteria. Transportation Department relocation. Our student enrollment continues to grow. I told you we're up 112, 113 students from this time last year. And so what happens is we're also getting a lower socioeconomic student in our district. And so our free and reduced price lunch percentage have increased from 25% 12 years ago to about 41%, 42% today. And so what happens is when you start getting students in here that don't have the financial means for their parents to transport them to and from school, don't have the financial means to purchase the gas, they need to get on the bus. And so our bus ridership and enrollment has grown as well, which means that we're actually looking at purchasing additional buses this coming year just to accommodate for that growth. Inadequate space to maintain and service buses. I'll show you a picture here in just a second of what I'm talking about in our current bus garage and the inability to be able to service those buses like we need to. So a lot of times, if we can't get the buses in there, get them serviced, we have to outsource that here in the community, and it costs us more money to have outside mechanics working on things instead of having our own people working on it. Also, increased bus ridership due to the partnership with the Boys and Girls Club. So starting at the beginning of this month, we actually started transporting more and more students to the Boys and Girls Club, because before they could, the high school, junior high, middle school, Angie Grant kids could just walk right over here to the Boys and Girls Club. And so now we're having to transport many of those students just at the elementary right now, but eventually it will probably wind up being middle school, junior high, and high school kids as well out in the new facility. Here you see a picture of the parking lot behind C.W. Lewis Stadium, which is right next to First Baptist Church. I didn't realize, but about 2 months ago I found out, I didn't realize that we actually leased that parking lot just to park our buses on the First Baptist Church parking lot at $1,000 a month, so about $12,000 a year, just to have a place to put our buses. And we're so thankful to First Baptist for them allowing us to have the opportunity to be able to do that, because otherwise I don't know where we would put the buses. Here is our shop there at the bus garage, and in this picture here that you see a bay where we pull the bus in there, and it's only one bay, and so you can only get one bus in there at a time. In the winter months, I'm sure that the guys that are working on the buses in there is tough because of just trying to keep the elements out of there. It's hard to even get the bus all the way in there and close the doors to keep it heated. Same thing with the cooling in the summertime. Another one of the projects is the expansion of the VHSK band room. The current band room, as big and as nice as it is, y'all, the numbers of that program continue to grow so much we can't get them all in there. So we have to divide them up throughout the day just to be able to have our band kids serviced. So currently we cannot even service the entire band at the same time. We have to break it up throughout the day. Cook Fieldhouse renovation. First and foremost is the asbestos that is in the ceiling, that is in the flooring. We can't even go in there and do much with that facility because of the asbestos. There needs to be an asbestos abatement done. We utilize that space pretty well right now. However, we know we can use it at a much higher level. So we feel like we could double the number of kids that we can service in that particular building if we just go in there and do some renovation to it and add some academic space that's currently not in there. We can also move our CTE sports medicine program in there. That would be an academic area that we would add to that facility. The backside of that facility has dressing rooms on it. And, well, you're going to see some pictures here in just a second as to the conditions as to some of those dressing rooms. And what I've said in the past meetings is I don't think that I would want to have to change in there, but yet we're asking our kids to change in there. And so you'll see some of those pictures right now. So that's the outside of Cook Fieldhouse. It's a beautiful building. It's been here 50, 60 years. There's been some updates to it. We put new windows in there just to help with the heat not escaping and keeping the air inside there. But there's also been new doors and things put on there. So there's been some work done to it, but there's more work that needs to be done to it. There's the inside of Cook Fieldhouse. With the renovation, we would be able to turn and have 2 floors, one running this way and then another one adjacent to it running the same direction, so we could double the capacity of the classes that we could have in here just by turning the floors. There is a picture of one of the dressing facility areas. We always struggle with keeping mold and mildew out of this area because of poor air quality and poor airflow in there. And you probably can't see it well, but if you'll notice up around where those vents are, that's mold and mildew. So we have to keep custodians in there regularly just to keep those things cleaned out just because of the health and safety hazards for our students. There's a picture of the dressing room. we're limited into what we can even do with the flooring, because once you start messing around with that flooring, you disturb the asbestos, which we can't do. So basically, there's not much that we can do to help with making that area a better area for our students to dress. The last project here has to do with the baseball facility. As I said before, we need that ground there to be able to do some expansion type projects there. So we would have to move that facility over to the sports complex, which there is a piece of land over there that was designated for a future baseball field. It's just a matter of how fast that can be done. Regardless of whether the debt extension passes or not, there's going to have to be some upgrades and some repairs made at our current baseball facility. It's gotten run down, and I think it was because of the hope that maybe sometime eventually we could get that thing moved. But either way, if it stays and it doesn't pass, we're going to have to sink some money into that facility to bring it back up to standard like it needs to be. You can see some of the reasons why. The window down here at this corner, we have to keep propped up because it always wants to fall out. And so you see some damage to the outside of the press box. The fencing here is bowed out and has to be replaced for safety reasons. And so that's just pretty expensive. We're looking at thousands of dollars just to bring it up to standard. Next, I want to show you a video that our students actually created from the high school, our student council, and they tell the story much better than what I do, so I'll be quiet and try to let you turn it on and let them listen.
The Benton School District is undoubtedly one of the best school districts in the state. The district is the highest performing school in Saline County. Renovation and expansion is needed to many of the district's facilities to accommodate the growth in the district. The Benton High School band room is also struggling with accommodating the growing number of students in the band program. They are unable to service the entire band at the same time.
Good field house is needed at Benton High School because it serves the primary purpose of housing physical education classes and serves as the freshman 9th grade baseball locker room.
But at the same time, adjustments need to be made to it and renovations, because under this moldy roof that's above us, there's a large amount of asbestos that needs to be removed.
The baseball field is the only on-campus outdoor sports facility that's not conveniently located at the Benton Athletic Complex. If the baseball field is moved to the complex with the other facilities, it'll leave open land here. So, Jane, what are we going to do with that land?
Well, as the Benton School District keeps expanding, there's a need for more classes. And this spot would be perfect for those classes, since the high school is right there, and the junior high is right there, and the middle school is right behind us.
This is the Benton Junior High School cafeteria. It currently holds our 8th and 9th grade students during each of their school lunches. Our 8th grade population is currently 395 students, and our upcoming 8th grade population is 427 students. Now, as you can see, this cafeteria was once able to accommodate for all of the school's students, but now, as our school population is increasing, it can no longer comfortably hold all of them.
You remember in junior high when we had to turn our trays sideways because they wouldn't get the right way?
Yeah, and remember when we had to put our lunch boxes on the ground to have enough room for our food?
To get up, you had to like.
Yeah, it's going back.
Have to sit in the crack.
That's terrible.
This is the Benton High School cafeteria. It is currently equipped to hold approximately 360 students, but both 6th grade lunch and the 7th grade lunch is having to hold roughly 400 students. The upcoming 5th grade class is approximately 460 students, which is about 100 of the capacity of the cafeteria, which is about 360.
The transportation department currently cannot house all of the buses in the district. Currently, the district leases a parking lot owned by First Baptist Church. There's also not enough room to maintain and service the buses. The bus issue will continue to increase when the current Boys and Girls Club facility moves to the new complex in April. This move will cause an increase in bus ridership due to the students transported from the Angie Grant Middle School, Junior High, and High School. To alleviate this problem, the Benton School District plans to relocate buses to the athletic complex maintenance area.
Those are some of our student council kids from the high school, and they just put a video together trying to tell the story. So in the video, you were able to see some of the different locations that, you know, I talked about before, just like I showed you with the pictures here. This is an actual ballot form which says 4 tax. And here's the thing, it's going to lead people to think or to believe that this is a tax increase, even though it's a tax extended over time. But this is what it would actually look at. So if you wanted to support voting for the debt extension, you'd be voting for the tax. So vote for, student yes, and that's a long form of the same ballot. 41.9 mills would stay the same, it would not increase. It's just going to be extended out over a longer period of time of 8 years. And the vote is actually May the 9th. That's the election day. However, early voting starts, what's the Monday before? Is it 2nd? Okay. May 2nd is when the actual early voting starts, and it goes for about a week there before the actual election is held on the 9th. We've had 6 public meetings. This is the 5th of the 6th, and I appreciate y'all being here tonight for it. We actually have one left, so if you have friends or family that you talk to that would like to come and listen to the presentation, our last one will be right here, May the 3rd at 12 o'clock at lunch, around lunchtime, and so that will be the last of our 6 meetings before the actual voting starts. And that's the end of the presentation, so I will take the time to field any questions that any of you all may have about any of that presentation.
When you made statements about our growth and the bus routes growing, I just wanted to say on my, of course they don't all ride it at the same time, but I have 83 kids on my bus.
Wow. Yeah.
And it's an 89 passenger bus, that's putting 3 to a seat.
Yeah.
And you put 3 junior high kids in the seat with your backpacks.
Yeah.
You can actually haul about 50.
Yeah, well, and you know this as well as anybody, is that the legislature just passed a law, you know, requiring us to put seatbelts on buses starting in the year 2018, I think it is, 2019 school year. So that's going to probably reduce that number down even more.
Yeah, and I thought about that, and I don't know, but they ought to be some way, there should be some way, put a quick release on it. Because if something happens, you get 80 kids out of their seat off a bus.
Fire, rollover, and submersion in water.
Anything.
Yeah. I was worried about that same thing because, you know, we practice those drills every year with the kids, you know, in case there was a fire, but when you put them in a seatbelt, you know, especially if there's been an accident, there's tension release, and so they lock those kids in. I mean, you're not just going to go over there and hit the button and let them out, and who's going to do that?
Yeah.
You know, when you got 60 or 80 kids on the bus.
The handicap buses, they have, like, I think, big letter opener.
Yeah.
You know, they would
Okay,
have
right.
80 kids on the bus, so,
Yeah.
you know, that would work, but
Yeah.
large buses would.
Well, I appreciate you bringing that up. I mean, you know it better than anybody. You've been doing it for 13 years, and so you've seen the growth happen, as far as the
Yeah,
numbers.
I have. I've moved 3 times for growth and splitting routes up.
Yeah. And we hate to be losing you.
You want-
I said, we hate to be losing you on that route.
Yeah.
If you take a notion to change your mind, you know, you're welcome back, because we're still looking for drivers.
I think me and my wife decided I'm just about getting to the point that, you know, getting old.
I understand.
Don't say that.
But I was telling Carla, I thought I was getting old. So last year I was in Nashville and talking to a bus driver down there, and he was 86 years old.
Okay.
So.
Still doing it.
Wow.
Wow. Any other questions from anybody?
Well, I know you don't want to really imagine this, but what's the plan if the extension doesn't pass?
That's a great question, and it's one that I got even from one of our staff members back when I was going around and sharing the same presentation with them. We're going to continue to have school.
Well, of course.
And so here's what I would say is, what would probably happen, Ms. Butler, is that eventually we would probably have to look at purchasing portable type buildings. They're cheaper, they're uglier, but in order to accommodate the growth.
They're more
of the
dangerous in case of a tornado.
They are, yes ma'am. And then you also have the fact that, you there's usually no covered walkways or things getting to and from, and so kids are out of the elements, that sort of thing. And so we don't want to do that, and that's why we don't have to look very far except to our next door neighbors to see that, when you have an influx and a growth like what we're starting to experience and you're not prepared for it, then if you don't take some proactive steps to stay out ahead of it, then you find yourself in a situation where you may have to do something like that. So,
now, why not ask for an increased millage?
we talked about that, and we felt like the support would be stronger for doing something that did not have a tax increase, just an extension of that tax. And that was just one of the things that our board struggled with, figuring out whether or not we wanted to try and just raise the millage, or we felt that it would be better to extend the debt over a longer period of time. And that's just something that we as a group and they as a group, as a board, chose to go for the debt extension instead of the millage increase.
Okay, now I know you're new and this was not your responsibility, and these people are going to tell you when I leave that I have a skewed, I guess, opinion of this, but the reason you're not going to get an increased millage is because on the last millage, I wasn't for it because I realized that they had allotted way too much money for the sports facilities.
I see.
And the people that didn't agree with me until it happened now, say, no, we'll never vote for another millage in this town because we don't want, and now I see that so much money of this is going to go to the sports program again. A baseball field or whatever it is, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And we have so many needs.
Correct.
Academically. And this has been a fight in this district that the academic people have often lost because you go over there and look at that football field and you think we must be doing great financially. And we try to tell them that we're in debt too much. No. Well, now see, we have a debt extension program.
Sure.
And I always want the sports program to come at the end of the handout, and that hasn't been the case. And goodness, when I saw that, how that's, could you, let's say I were for the debt extension.
Yes, ma'am.
I wouldn't want that worded like that on the ballot. There was no other way.
We tried to get it worded differently, we really did, and I guess by law, it had to be spelled out that way. Of course, Stevens Incorporated out of Little Rock is actually who is doing this, and so I asked that very same question, and we couldn't make it happen. That was the best that we could do as far as the wording, but I agree with you 110%. Also, to address the athletic side of it, I get that, I understand that. I've heard the stories about, going from C.W. Lewis and that one being built and the divide that it created in the community. And thankfully I wasn't here to be a part of that because I know it wasn't pretty. I know it wasn't pretty, but if you'll notice on the 6 projects that we have, only the 1 out of the 6 is actually athletics related. Now could be, but we're not really looking at that as athletics as much as we are academic space for physical education for the CTE program.
And what is, I wrote that down, what is the CTE sports medicine program?
Angie's here, she's actually our CTE assistant superintendent, so I'll let her take that one.
Okay.
This year we started a sports medicine athletic training program. CTE stands for Career and Technical Education. So that is a lot of hands-on learning. We've added the sports medicine, so that's working with, athletes, working with physical therapists. Kids have a lot of different opportunities. We're hoping to add medical pro next year. That way students can get their CNA and go right into a nursing program. So we're going to be expanding. We're going to be expanding our health science offerings. So.
And we would like to move that component of our CTE program into that facility because where better can you get hands-on, experience than working with those physical education classes and even athletics for that matter. And so.
And our athletic trainer that he started the program out at Lakeside High School. and they actually had a clinic there that they ran for the school district, and were able to provide a different experience besides just the athletic training piece. They can offer some additional clinical experience for students.
We actually had, and I'll tell you how serious this can actually be. We had a young man go down on the baseball field, and thankfully our athletic trainer and coaches. Yeah, so did you know that situation then?
I taught tennis.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And so we were fortunate that we had an athletic trainer, but we also had a coaching staff that was well trained through our athletic trainer to be able to respond, because even the doctors at the hospital there at Children's said there's no way he would have survived had they not reacted in the fashion they did. So we're so thankful that we have a great program to be able to train, our people the way they need to be able to respond, in situations like that, because, unless you've been there and you've been through the training, what would you do other than dial 911? And I don't think, even though they did that, by the time the ambulance got there, it might have been too late, so.
And we hope to expand first responders, et cetera, for our students, so that's a good.
A lot of those programs are really tied to good partnerships within our community. So we look to partner with different business and industry here in our community to get kids out into the field and actually see real world experience, as to what some of those different jobs are like. And so that's something that we're working hard on, as well as to be able to expose our kids to as many of those job related professions that are out there. Any other questions, Shelley?
I had a question about, you said you wanted to move the ball field, and I can't remember what you said you want to use that space for.
Sure. Yeah, so if you notice the numbers from those 4th and 5th grade kids, going from probably 450 to 470, as they filter up through the junior high, we're going to be out of space by the time they get there. And we're only talking about 2 to 4 years out that we're going to be in that situation. So that would provide us space to be able to expand and add classrooms there at our junior high campus. One of the things that's, I don't know how much you've heard about it, but there's the possibility of a Saline County Career and Technical Center here in the county.
Right.
And so should that not pass or go through, then we would look at possibly doing some kind of scaled down version of that there on that space as well, and for our high school students and the CTE programs.
Gotcha. Okay. That answers my question.
Yeah. So just classroom space, and that cafeteria is in need too. So I don't know, that's a little bit farther out than what we'd want to put a cafeteria, but I don't know how much we can go in and blow out walls in the current space to expand that space.
Okay, so let's say it passes. When do you start building things?
Almost immediately. So what would happen is, if it does pass, I would say that you would see some projects getting started probably by June or July.
Okay.
Because there's some things that we have already, there's steps that we had taken just to do a feasibility study on what projects could we get to. All of these projects, by the way, and you can look at this, is in our 7 years facilities plan that we have to submit to the state, and we update that periodically. So a lot of these projects that you see listed here tonight were already on the books. It was just a matter of, could you afford to be able to do some of those things?
Right.
So,
okay.
Anything else? Any other questions from anybody?
She asked my question.
Okay, very good.
I have one question about the state that we needed the room with baseball.
Yeah, just to expand.
So it wasn't so much for sports, it was.
That's right. And as I mentioned to you before, we've had some community folks step up and say, look, if y'all can get this done, we're willing to put X amount of money towards this project. So I really believe that we can,
what project?
Towards the baseball project. So it would lessen the expense of, what I'm putting up here. So we're saying it would take about $3 million to do that. So
there are business people in the community who are willing to fund that?
To help fund it, yes ma'am. And so we think that we can subtract some of that cost down just from community sponsorships and commitments and that sort of thing. We did the same thing when I was at the Jonesboro School District. We renovated our high school football stadium and track. And so just through commitments from community members and business and industry and so they get sponsors, logos on the field, things of that nature. That's how we actually pay for our whole entire athletic project renovation there. It was in the ballpark of about $3 to $4 million, completely paid for by donations and not anything out from the school. So we're hopeful that we can move in that direction here. Does that mean that we'll take care of all $3 million of it? I don't know. It depends on what kind of support we have in the community, but we have one partnership here in the community that has already mentioned in the ballpark of $300,000 just to start out with. So I can't mention names, but I can't mention names, but we know of at least one. I think there's others out there too. We just haven't approached them yet because we didn't know what were the chances of being able to do this debt extension or not. So.
All right, now you're talking about the band building.
Yes, ma'am.
Where is that? Do you worry, let me ask this first.
Okay.
Because people complain all the time about the traffic situation here.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm not one of those people who thinks that we're going to be, have some sort of terrorist attack, but it would take forever to get these people moved out of this situation. Let's say it's a tornado that blows away half of it, or a terrorist attack, which I don't think. I hope that we never get so.
Next to those.
Yes, but with every student practically in Benton except for Caldwell, concentrated right here in this area, even Howard Parrott. We've got, and Ringo down there. We've got everybody right here. And I've wondered what would happen if there were some sort of problem.
Well, you're right, and I'm not going to deny the fact that we struggle with it even now without it being a disaster of any kind. And so we've tried to take some proactive steps as far as, for instance, where the sports complex is now, and there's right across from the Boys and Girls Club, there's a little small subdivision there.
Yes,
that, we only have really, in the very front of the sports complex, you have one entrance and one exit on each end of the complex, and nothing on the back side. And so when we have large events at our stadium, for instance, football games or band events or anything else like that, the traffic gets so congested in there, trying to get emergency vehicles in there even is good luck, because there's not another entrance and exit on a different end of that stadium. So we've looked at trying to do some things to help with the traffic flow. Of course, we're adding another probably 300 more vehicles just up here at the middle school next year with those fifth graders coming up. And so we're going to look at doing some things as far as relieving some of the parking and getting the cars off of the road if we can, and into a parking lot, which would allow more room for traffic to come and go. And so there's some things that we have done, and we have actually set in motion to try and get done. Our board has actually acted on 2 projects right now. They voted to pass the parking right next to where the new middle school addition is. And that'll be one of the last things that we do, but then also a cut through to the athletic complex to help. Here's what some of the parents were telling us in our strategic planning meetings that your daughter was actually a part of, is that if there was any way that we can get out to the parkway, it would make it easier for us to get to our places at work. And so the only way to do that is to somehow cut through that athletic complex and let them circle through there to get out to the parkway. And so we're looking at any and all options, and believe me, if you have any suggestions or ideas, I'm all ears, because it is tough, because we're limited, as you well know, with just Cox Street. And what's the one, is this School Street, is that what it's called, or right out here?
Border, right?
Border, that's right. So Border and Cox are really your 2 main, arteries in here, and you're right, it gets very, very full with traffic before school, after school, and big time events that we have here on campus. And those are costly projects as well, because anytime you're talking about concrete or asphalt, it's astronomical, the cost to that. So.
Well, for some reason we haven't been forward-looking enough here, because I was for buying property and building an elementary school somewhere else.
Well, and that's not a project that we've got listed here, but that's something that we've got in the works as well, as far as looking at, because you're exactly right. We can't, other than just expanding on where the current baseball stadium sits, or if the Boys and Girls Club were to sell this property here, we don't have any more room for expansion here. I mean, we just don't, we're out of space in this complex. Now, the only thing that we might could do is reconfigure our grade levels, you know, instead of having 5th, 6th, and 7th together, or 8th and 9th together, and moving a grade level or two out of this area, and you're right, building another school in a different location to help pull some of that out. So I'm with you on that. I agree with you. I've asked the same question ever since I've gotten here is, wow, the traffic is something that has to be.
Because when you tell people that the newest elementary school in Benton was built in like 1952, 3, wherever it was,
Yeah.
or Howard Herring.
Sure.
And I know that Ringo's been renovated in that time. You know, that even sounds like a long time ago to me.
It is a long time.
And to everybody
Yeah.
else, it does. I don't know.
No, and you know, it's one of those things when I got here, of course, you know, we've all got our own ideas about what needs to be done and how it needs to be done, but I really tried to remove myself out of that and just talk to our people. And so what you see here tonight is a culmination of those meetings that we had, you know, back that I was telling you about with the 60 to 80 parents and business industry type folks here in our community. Also with our staff, and so we really just listened to what they had to say, and so all of the things that you see here tonight and that we're talking about tonight stem from all of those conversations and all those meetings. And so I'm so thankful that those folks were willing to give their time and their input as to what they felt like needed to be done. And so these are really ideas and not, you know, projects that were either already on our books and people still see that we need to go ahead and get done. There's really nothing on here that I come up with. It was just things that I heard from others that, you know, I met with. I wish I could take credit for some of them, but I can't.
Well, I wouldn't want to take credit for the new baseball stadium. Because people have been stung on that already.
Sure.
And obviously not the majority because it got done.
Sure.
But it leaves a bad taste in people's mouths when they know that the money is going to be directed first and foremost towards athletics.
Yeah. Actually, that's why that project was at the bottom of the list, is because it would be one of the last projects. No, it wouldn't. Actually, the things that you saw from would be the very first project has to be the renovation expansion of the cafeteria, because we're out of space. I mean, that's a good problem to have. Don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining. I would rather have that problem as to have the other problem and losing students and wondering what you're going to do to support keeping people working in a job. So.
You know, when all you have to do is drive by those new apartment buildings.
Yes, ma'am.
There, and, you know,
Yeah, Long Hill. We're already feeling some of that. Yeah, that's some of that 112 that I mentioned that we were up this year. So.
It's just unbelievable when I look over there at those. But,
and I think there's new subdivisions. Of course, we were talking about off of McGee Road. There's one that's coming up out there. I think 20 or so houses, and then I know out here at exit 114. There's a proposed anywhere from 400 to 1,200 home subdivision that's about to get started out here at exit 114. And of course, that's still in our school district, and so we'll feel the growth off of that. I think the expansion of Interstate 30 here to 6 lane, and then, you know, the widening of 70 out there, plus a lot of the growth going out that way. You got Riverside Park, and then Boys and Girls Club out that way. Things are just moving in that direction, so I think we're going to continue to feel a lot of the enrollment growth and people trying to get to our community. We literally were told by real estate folks here and developers here in our community during some of these meetings is that they get 2 to 3 phone calls a day of people asking, where's the houses? We're trying to get our kids over into your school district, and we're just limited right now as far as any kind of houses are concerned. Now the apartments are a little bit different story. So. We all thank you for being here tonight. I hope you have a good rest of the evening, and please share the information with any of your family or friends. We've got the last meeting coming up on May the 3rd. Invite them here at 12 o'clock at the TDC, and we just ask for your support, and I hope you get out and vote. Thank you all very much.